Do you like yourself? Is that voice in your head yours or somebody else's? We often get caught in thinking we are what we think about ourselves, as though it's some kind of objective truth. I am stupid. I don't deserve that. Why do unfavorable things always happen to me? I'm ugly. Nobody wants me. Why is life so hard? I'm unlovable. Seeing as we live with ourselves 24 hours a day, and we have thoughts that have been on loop for a lifetime that end up hardwiring in our brains, I can understand why we get caught in thinking traps. What happens if your core idea of yourself and the things that you don't like about yourself don't originate from you? What if it comes from other people's beliefs and opinions that you have internalized? I had grown up much like everyone else, with other people's beliefs and opinions being projected on me. Whether it was my parents, my teachers, extended family, my favorite TV shows. After sustained projection, I ended up internalizing their voices, and I didn't even realize I had done it. I was now seeing myself through another's gaze. Growing up, I learned that being a woman was shameful, so I spent a lifetime hiding. Being an emotional human made you a target for ridicule, but being an emotional woman put a hit out on your head. So I ate my emotions and I became a husk of a human being. I had learned that being me, which was the opposite of the accepted narrative, would be suicide. So I performed for false acceptance and I dreamt in silence. I believed that my worth was equal to what others thought of me, and I was told I was dumb because my family and my teachers had said so. The internalized voices of others became my source material that I referred to know myself. The line between me and them had blurred and all but disappeared. These voices told me what I was capable of, what I was worthy of, and fundamentally who I was. The consequences of seeing yourself through somebody else's perception. I was constantly trying to live up to other people's idea of who I should be. I would behave like a boy around my dad for acceptance. I was always aware of not being myself because I had learned that would definitely result in rejection. So performance mode was always on, whether I was with myself or with another. Prolonged separation from myself resulted in depression and an acute dislike for myself. So who were you trying to impress or not upset when you were growing up? We live our life not only through another's gaze, but also our perception of what we think they think about us. Sociologist Charles Horton Cooley's concept, the looking glass self, suggests our sense of self is formed by our interpretation of how others perceive us. The quote, "I am not what I think I am, and I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am," illustrates this idea where your self-image is a reflection of what you believe others think of you. John Berger commented on the male gaze objectifying women, but we can take this idea and we can apply it more generally. He said the surveyor of woman in herself is male, but we can also say the surveyor of you within yourself is the other. Seeing myself through this gaze meant that I never understood myself independent of what I thought the world told me I was. This created an angry split between the me that I thought I was versus the me that was performing and seeing myself through another. James Hollis, a Jungian psychologist, spoke on individuation, and he said, "The lifelong project of becoming more nearly the whole person you were meant to be, what the gods intended, not the parents or the tribe or especially the easily intimidated or inflated ego. Our individuation summons each of us to stand in the presence of our mystery and become more fully responsible for who we are in this journey we call life." I inherently understood, as we all do, that there exists a North Star of truth and authenticity within each of us, wanting to guide us back to our most true and whole self. And when we're working in opposition to that guidance, being guided instead by voices that are not our own, it's as though we unconsciously know that we have abandoned ourselves. How to undo it? I had always been present to not liking myself very much. But it wasn't until 2 years ago when I hit rock bottom and I was faced by the worst kind of suffering. I realized my dislike for myself was actually disgust for myself. My inner dialogue was abusive. I judged others as harshly as I judged myself. Meeting other people's expectations was my measure of success. My entire personality was one big reaction to wanting acceptance. Let's talk about a few things that you can do to go from disliking yourself to actually being a really big fan of yourself. It's things that I've done and they have personally transformed my life. Creating a degree of separation. We can become lazy by always defaulting to what we always think. So this is an opportunity for us to separate ourselves from what we think and to really start critically thinking about what we're thinking about. And you'll very quickly realize that you don't have to believe everything that you think. The very act of separating yourself from what you're thinking means that you're no longer participating in your thoughts. Now you're observing your thoughts. It's a beautiful and intentional act that says you can choose what you want to think and that you are no longer victimized by thoughts that are not your own. And I found this incredibly cathartic, and I still do. Accept the invite from your monsters and enter the cave. Carl Jung used the cave as a metaphor for the unconscious mind. The part of you that stores your shadows, or as I like to call them, are monsters. The parts of you that you don't like and are afraid of. The parts of you that you've spent a lifetime running from and abandoning. And he says something that I absolutely love, which is, if we do not make the unconscious conscious, we will always call it fate, as though it is arbitrarily just happening to us and we have to show up for it. And so if we are to overcome the aspects of ourselves that we do not like, it is necessary to enter the cave, even if with trembling knees, but with a courageous heart, to finally sit down and face our monsters. Drawing them out for examination and shining a light on them helps to turn something very abstract and unknown into something more tangible. This exercise began to demonstrate a very important truth that Joseph Campbell so aptly put. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. It's helpful to start with the loudest voice that encroaches most heavily in your life at the moment. I began with, what is the point of life? Because I had become quite nihilistic in the darker suffering of my life. The act of admitting what I feared released a lot of energy that otherwise was being expended to hide. As I built the resilience to spend more and more time with my monsters, I was able to start accepting what I felt, what I thought. And through the act of acceptance, I began neutralizing the fear. Rollo May, an existential psychologist, wrote about the daemon referred to in ancient Greece. A force that connected you to your destiny, the person the gods had planned for you to become. It assisted you when on the right path and afflicted you when you were not. Facing what you fear about yourself helps to integrate lost parts of yourself, because you start to see those monsters that you once feared are actually assistants in helping you get back to your own voice. They're not out to torment you, they're out to remind you who you really are. As you emerge from the cave, you can often feel as though you've been left with a void. Where once somebody else's voice existed, you now have a blank canvas for your own voice. The Vision Quest, a beautiful Native American tradition used to retreat within and to seek what it is that you really want. Allowing yourself for the first time to really intentionally recognize what it is that you want. This can be novel in a world where we think we're exercising our free will, but in fact are exercising the thoughts of others that make us feel wrong for having dreams and desires outside of what is acceptable and expected. In this quest, you seek the truth of what you want that is independent of circumstance, of people, of acceptability, of expectability. And what you've been told is realistic. I found having a true vision for myself and my life meant that for the first time I was finally giving myself permission to be myself. And it allowed my attention to be spent on what I wanted not what I was trying to get away from. Becoming self-referential. Something I didn't think was okay or possible, but hearing myself for the first time. What did I want? Who was I? That void that I spoke to you about earlier, that blank canvas, it allowed for space for my true self to come through. So what is your voice saying to you? Closing the gap between who you thought you were and who you really are promotes self-trust. It engages that humanity that you lost within yourself. And it reminds you that your relationship with yourself will be the most important one that you will cultivate and curate. Now, you're unstoppable.